We are recording now, and I just want to make sure before we do anything else that we have each of your permission to record this conversation and transcribe it for our collections at the museum at Bethel Woods.
Yes, you do.
Yes.
Great, perfect. So this is Julia Fell interviewing Dwayne Spencer and Paulette Licitra on April 24th, 2025 for the Museum at Bethel Woods Oral History Collection.
My name is Duette Spencer,
And my name is Paulette Licitra.
and we
And
were
we
at
were at
Woodstock
Woodstock together.
together.
I think you guys got it in one. That was great. All right.
This is making me well up.
Oh. All right. So without any further ado, I think I'm going to get us started with the interview itself.
Okay.
And so to do that, I'm going to ask you each about what your life was like leading up to the festival. So if you had similar experiences and want to kind of talk together, you can do that, or if you
Mhm.
want to take turns, that's fine. But if you
Okay.
could each tell me sort of how old you were, where you were living, and what you were generally up to in the summer of 1969.
Okay. Shall we?
Yeah, you want to start?
Okay.
Yeah.
We came up from Long Island. We were in Brentwood, Long Island. We were just out of high school. I was 18. Um,
I was 17. We had just graduated high school that June in 69. And so we were high school friends. Um, and Go ahead, I'm sorry.
and the irony was that we were just really good friends. There was no relationship or hanky panky. We were just good buddies, literally. And we had heard about this concert thing coming up somewhere, and of course, to us, it was upstate, which anything north of the Bronx is upstate. And so I managed to get. I bought a ticket. I think, which is actually the triple ticket, which was a ticket for each day. I think I mailed away for them. And I only bought one because I didn't even think to have one to bring somebody with me. And coincidentally,
Well, I'm just going to fill in a little bit more about our background
oh, go ahead.
because in high school, it was like a school that was big on sports. But we had a circle of friends that were into art, into music, and into theater, and we were sort of part of that group. And it was a group of, let's say, maybe 8 to 10 people that were really good friends. And so we were friendly in that manner that we shared that kind of thing. I mean, Dwayne had already played with Van Morrison before he got out of high school.
Yeah.
And he was in bands all the time. I was in the theater we made puppet shows in high school and brought it around to all the elementary schools. So whenever we got together, it was usually in a group. And Dwayne and I sometimes got together, but we kind of knew each other pretty well. So, like he said, he got his tickets, and I bought a set of tickets. And I didn't know what I was doing because I didn't have a car. So I didn't know how I thought I was going, and nobody conferred with each other to say, "You want to go? You want to go?" And we just happened to connect one day,
Yeah.
and he had tickets, and I had tickets, and he had a car.
I said, "You want to come with me?" I don't know. So there we
That's
took
how
off.
we ended up going.
Oh yeah. So the car that I had, which was I think I bought it for $200, was a black 1962 Ford Galaxy with red interior and a metal dashboard just to make sure, you know. So that was the vehicle we got to take. Um, I don't know
We actually
where.
have a picture of one. We
Yeah.
we have a bunch of pictures we could show you if you wanted to share the screen, but I don't know if you want to get into that, but maybe later or however works best. So yeah,
Oh,
so
okay.
so this big car.
Right, right. So we figured, you know, we wanted to see the whole thing. So it started on Friday. So being that we were down Long Island, we figured, well, let's leave Thursday night, you know, just so we can get up there in time and get someplace a nice seat or something.
It was
However,
supposed to start at 10 a.m. So,
because we had no idea, it was just a concert. No one knew that what it was going to become.
that's a big thing. You just looked at the list of bands and you thought, oh wow, we like all of these bands, and we like, here's our favorites. We got to go to this concert. And we were going to concerts all through high school and even that summer. And you thought, okay, I'm going to a concert. It happens to be 3 days. Didn't know it was like an event. That's what happened.
Yeah.
But meantime, we're just thinking we're going to hear music.
So we drove up on Thursday, late Thursday night, figuring we could be there in the morning. And we took the route, the thruway up to 17 and 17B, and suddenly we hit the wall of traffic. And we've calculated that we were about 2.5, 3 miles away from the stage, but we couldn't get any closer. So we pulled over, and the first thing I thought of is, I'm going to turn the car around now because I'll never be able to turn it around later. So that was a good choice.
But literally, you got to 17B and you couldn't drive because there were so many cars. Everything just stopped.
So then I guess we just started becoming part of the event. People were everywhere. People of so similar backgrounds and consciousness.
Consciousness.
It was just it was really refreshing to be with that many people that all kind of were on the same page.
But the other thing that we tried to remember is that, did we have money? Where did we get food? How did we go? Where did we go to the bathroom?
I don't remember.
Did we have a change of clothes?
We didn't bring extra clothes.
It felt
said,
like
let's go. Let's leave. Bye.
Yeah, we just got in the car and went, and and we were just out of high school, so we were just kids, and and we have no memory of how we did just the normal things that you would need to do, But somehow we don't remember any stress or any worries or any like, oh my God, what are we going to do? We just kind of went with the flow, and we slept in the car. So we would walk to the site. The first day we were at the site, not too far from the stage. Somehow we always managed to be not too far from the stage, and sat there for hours before it started. Before Richie Havens was the first one. And so we were out in the sun and just waiting, surrounded by so many people. And it starts to come over you that you realize how many people are there. And of course, nobody took our tickets. By the time we got to the site, we just wandered in and there wasn't any ticket taking or anything like that.
So we still have
That's why we still have our tickets perfectly intact. Different kinds. Mine look different because I bought them in a shop. His looks different, maybe because he mailed away for them.
Mine were $6 a piece, $6 a day for that lineup. But hers were $7.
Yeah.
I don't know why, but maybe I just decided.
I got gypped. So we walked there every day, and then would come back, and we would sleep in the car. And we have to make this point because we make this point when people ask us about it, is that we really were friends. And here we were, two teenagers, a guy and a gal, and there was no romance. It was like we were cousins for some reason, and
so buddies,
Yeah, really. And we also have no memory of any kind of, tension, like, oh, should I kiss her or should we, should we hold him? They were just like, we were just really just friends. And that's why it's so funny when we reconnected, what was it, like 35, 40 years later at a class reunion. And it was like, oh, wow, I remember Woodstock. And we would start talking about that stuff. And then suddenly, sparks started to fly. And a romance bloomed. And we think of it to this day. It's like, why was none of this feeling there then? It was just so funny, because he went off to, he had a family, two families. And I went off and lived in New York City and had a few careers. And then, we had like these lives. And then we came together and suddenly we're like, inseparable. But we have so much of a foundation that started in high school, and then having that Woodstock experience to share is like so much about who we are. Who did we see play music and who did we miss? And so we certainly saw Richie Havens when he first started, and then Ravi Shankar, I think, was there. And then, after a while, you're out there for hours. And like the first day is like you're in the sun. So you finally leave. And whether you go wandering around or we went back to the car, or we can't remember how we found food. And we also felt like we can't get separated because we'll never find each other again. So even like going to the porta stand or something, we had to know where the other person was. And so
Well, we must have left after that first string of artists, which was Richie Havens and Ravi Shankar and a few more that I'm sure we
Country
saw.
Joe, I think, maybe.
I
No.
forget.
Okay.
Then we left and wandered around, and just to do that, because why not? And then somehow we came back for later in the night and saw some more. And the only real strong memory I have of that evening was seeing Joan Baez. And of course, I was a crazy fan of hers, because who wasn't? And I remember I somehow finagled my way right up to the front stage, the stage fence there, and I had my chin on the fence, and she was standing right there, and that was it for me. But it was a really, really great experience to just experience her that closely and intimately with 500,000 other people.
Yeah.
So,
Somehow we always got pretty much near the front. He's very good at kind of winding his way through, and then you just sit down on the ground. I remember that night, and I'll bring up was it Saturday night with Credence and Janis,
that's
and
with that the next day.
that night was like so unbelievable. I think it was Credence, then Janis, then Sly, then Who.
And the Who, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So that in itself is many hours. So you're there for many hours, and it went through the middle of the night. Went through the whole night. And I remember I must have started dozing, sitting there, but we were so close. And I had this dream when Sly was on of getting up and going over to the amp and turning the volume down. And then I woke up to realize, oh, wow.
Of course, I was over there
here.
turning it up.
Yeah. And I don't know, maybe it was very loud, because I just remember the dream. I don't remember the actual volume. But then after Sly, when the Who came on, and we were great fans of the Tommy album.
Which it had just come out that summer, I think.
Yeah.
And so it was like the talk of the town.
It was great. And I think in those days, you would listen to albums forever and over and over and over. So you know every single note. And so when they started playing that, it was just amazing. During their performance, the sun came up, and
they're doing the last song, listening to you, and here comes the sun behind them, and
it was
needless
dazzling.
to say,
It was just so dazzling.
It was really an incredible experience.
Which another thought, because that kind of experience sounds like, okay, imagine if you were stoned. We didn't have any drugs. Not that we never did drugs. In high school, we did drugs, and that was part of our culture, part of our life. But at Woodstock, we didn't bring any, and we didn't connect with anyone there who had it. It was just so weird, but maybe you didn't need it.
Yeah.
Or something.
I mean, we may have bumped into someone who passed us a joint for a minute, but we didn't have a stash with us or even cared if we did. It wasn't on our mind.
I know.
It wasn't like, gosh, I wish we had something. It didn't matter.
It really didn't matter, and that's part of the other thing too. Is like, okay, we're going to hear some music. We have no plans of what should we bring. Like my mom after the first day or so, we saw a newspaper that said disaster area. And I got so nervous, so I wanted to call my mother and say, we're okay. It's not a disaster area. We're fine. And there was a big line at a payphone that we had to wait on, so I can at least call her.
And then do we have a dime?
And I didn't have a dime.
Or was it a quarter by then?
No, I think it was still a dime. I don't know. But payphone, right? And then my mom said later that on that Sunday, when my grandfather would come over for coffee, like he usually did on a Sunday, that he yelled at her for letting me go. How could you let her go to that thing?
With this boy.
Yeah, with this boy. Who's this boy? But also we remember, all the townspeople putting out their hose so you can at least get some water.
Just like laying on the front lawn, and people would just go by and take a drink, and it was just such a nice gesture,
What was the helicopter thing?
Oh, I think that was the second day. We were kind of on the right of the audience, pretty close. I think that was the whole John Sebastian era when he was on.
Okay.
But they had helicopters would fly in to drop food, like just canned goods and things for everybody because nobody could go anywhere to buy food. And so people would just dig a hole in the ground and start a fire and cook up a can of beans on the fire. But when the helicopter would land just beyond the fence that was parallel with the stage, and I went over there just to be part of that scene, and the helicopter guy just stayed on the ground there, and because it was August and it was hot, and he just revved his engine and made the prop go around. And everybody was like this. "Ah!" And it was so nice to get a nice breeze. And that was one of my strongest memories of that helicopter. It was such a nice thing for him to do. And he just took off.
Well, talking about that we had this group of friends back on Long Island, but we were the only ones that went as far as we knew. What was it? On the last day, we're walking the 17B to get to the site, and there's a off road. And how did we even find them?
I don't know. It's just
Oh, you know what? We might have seen Charlie in the street, and he said, "Oh, we're over here."
maybe, yeah.
Our friends were like right around the corner, sitting on a porch of an abandoned house.
Yeah, it was an empty house.
Yeah, I don't know. There might have been 3 or 4 of them. They just camped out there. They didn't even go to the music site. They just hung out there, and we saw them at the end, near the end, the last day or something like that.
And they were literally 50 yards away from us the whole time.
The whole
and they
time.
were like best friends of ours,
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it was an interesting little
So
twist.
that was very weird. And we had other friends who started to go, then saw the traffic and
And the
turned
reports,
around
yeah.
and decided, oh, forget it. Yeah, it didn't stop us. and and we were there when it rained. We were on the site when it rained, and Dwayne, it was all mud and everything. And also, I have curly hair, but back then I used to straighten it. And so after the rain, I was like, my hair was out again, and I was like, oh shoot. But he was wearing bell bottoms, and the mud.
Yeah, when I got home and the mud was on the bottom of my pants, and by then it had all dried off. But for some reason, I said, "This was a big deal. This thing we just went to." So I took a little bit of the dried dirt off the bottom of my bell bottoms, and I saved it for Woodstock dirt.
We have some Woodstock dirt from that
And
moment.
it's in there. It's in there. You can see it in there. So someday that'll be worth something.
Imagine we're saving this thing forever. And the other things we got like these they gave us this there, right? They gave us
I
this
don't know where
there.
these probably came out.
3 days of peace of
Yeah,
music.
that was probably the
Yeah,
program.
you probably know these things, right? Yeah, we've got a couple of these, and then of course we've got this Life special edition, and this they gave us then.
Yeah, I don't know what that is.
Woodstock '69. Yeah,
That was
bumper sticker.
I don't know if they were giving them away or selling them for a quarter or something.
You got that at the festival?
Yeah, that was from the festival.
Oh, interesting. I can't say I've never seen one before, but that's not
Yeah, it's kind of
I'm sure there's a
unusual.
million of them.
Yeah.
yeah. Interesting.
And then they were also selling posters, and I wanted to have a poster, and they were selling the posters for $1, but because it was raining, they'd give you a poster for $1, but then they gave you another one to roll it up in so it wouldn't get wet. So you got actually 2.
Yeah.
So this is the first one.
This is the one I kept.
What's the reflection?
Yeah. So it's still red and everything. We got a window there. Yeah. But you know what these look like. But Dwayne's,
I had this hanging in my house forever, and I guess it was near a window because it's very faded.
So now it's pink.
I turn it away from the window.
Yeah, and he's got his tickets.
And there's my tickets right there.
in the thing. Yeah.
Anyway.
And my tickets I've been keeping in this little envelope. This is the same envelope I first put it in from a bank in Copeg, Long Island. And so mine were like this size. I'm sure you've seen those too. but they're like perfect. It's funny to think that we carried these with us and went through that whole weekend and still came back with them in perfect condition. So the
Well,
other thing is,
I can tell you something about those tickets. You said you weren't sure why
yes.
they cost different
Mhm.
amounts.
Oh,
So
okay.
it's not necessarily to do with sending away for it versus buying it in the shop. But if you bought the 3-day ticket, it was at a discount because it was a package. So it
Oh,
was $6 per day instead of 7 because you were getting a
Mhm.
discounted rate. If
Well, that's
you
what I
bought the
got.
individual day tickets, which is what you did, Paulette, then you were paying for each ticket.
each
And
ticket.
Oh,
I've
Because weren't
actually,
yours attached?
yeah,
They
yes.
were attached.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yes, they are
Yeah, they're
attached. And they
attached.
have
Yeah.
those little symbols on them.
Yep. So that's the package 3-day ticket that would have been at a
Yeah.
discounted rate,
Yeah,
$18.
yeah. Yeah, that's right.
Yep.
Oh, okay.
Which
Oh,
was a
that's
lot of
good.
And
money then.
I've actually seen examples, and I guess this isn't what the store you bought them from did for you, but where if you did buy 3 tickets at the same time, even if they were separate day tickets, that they would mark it down $1 each day.
Oh,
So I have seen that, where if you bought them
yeah.
all together, the store would give you a discount, but I guess they didn't do that for you.
Yeah. I'll go back there and tell them about
Yeah.
That's right. I want my money.
that. And then, of course, the stuff that we sent you, where suddenly this book by Joel Macower,
Knockout.
that Dwayne, a friend of ours, sent this to Dwayne, that he's in the book. You know, the prologue, the preface to every book, to every chapter has this picture, and he's okay.
Right there. That's
Yeah,
you
yeah,
right
yeah,
there.
yeah. Which is really cool because then we wonder, like, well, where am I? Because I'm definitely next to him, but I'm covered by people. But this same configuration of people, because now we know to look for the girl with the headband and all that stuff, is in that picture that you grabbed from
Yeah,
the.
when we have the DVD of the movie Woodstock, and I went through it frame by frame to say, oh, wait, maybe we're in it. And I actually found that same scene in the movie, but back further. And if you look, there it is, that same group of people blocked into that.
Mm-hmm.
It was crazy.
Must have been the same series of photographs or whatever they did. And in that one, you could kind of see the back of my head. Okay, so yeah, so that's what the car looked like.
Beautiful.
And this is sort of what we looked like during that period. And here's our high school pictures. So we had just graduated. And actually, these are two pictures of current of us performing out
In Nashville.
in Nashville. Yeah. This is the prologue or the
page from the book.
yeah that introduces each chapter of the book. He uses that same photo for each chapter, and then this was the shot from the film that Dwayne's in that little spot there.
Yeah.
And these are Dwayne's tickets, and that's the cover of that Woodstock book.
Yeah, so you met Henry Gross in Nashville and were
Yeah.
exchanging Woodstock stories.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it was just so fun to hear the performance side of the experience and knowing what ours was. It just was a really fun discussion.
because that he performed like before Jimi Hendrix,
Yes, it was
like
that
on that morning.
Monday morning. Yeah.
Yeah, oh, just to back up a little bit, after the Who finished and the sun had come up, and Jefferson Airplane was coming on after that, and we left.
Enough.
Were, but plus we were a big Jefferson Airplane fans. It was like, okay, we can miss them. But the morning, then Crosby, Stills and Nash was that night, I think. Not that
No,
night.
I think it was before that.
The next day. Yeah, because it wasn't
Sunday
Monday morning,
night.
Sunday night. Yeah.
Yes.
So we were away from the site for a while, and of course we can't remember what we were doing, but we ended up back there to see Crosby, Stills and Nash, and for every performances that we saw, we remember where we were in the crowd. Okay, we were audience right, pretty close, and Crosby, Stills and Nash, we were audience left.
Yeah, back a bit.
But we were always in front of those big towers.
For the most part, yeah.
Yeah, we were always in front of that. But then we left after Crosby, Stills and Nash and went back to the car. And I remember, and I kind of wonder, is this really a memory or am I dreaming? But such a clear memory of waking up the next morning and hearing Jimi Hendrix from the car where our car was. So we think that was about 2 miles away. Could you hear Jimi Hendrix 2 miles away? We don't
almost,
know.
I, very possible.
But we
But
we
who
were
knows?
we weren't at the site at that moment, and I almost like in my head I'm like I hear the Star Spangled Banner by Jimi Hendrix. That's totally my memory. Um, so it's funny. But every time in Nashville, there's so many musicians, and people who have big careers and people who have little careers. And as soon as they hear that we were at Woodstock, they want to know every detail. And you could even hear when we perform sometimes that people who know we're at Woodstock saying to each other, when, like in between songs, we can kind of hear the audience saying they went to Woodstock, together.
Get that.
And us playing music, he's been a musician his whole life. Like I said, he played with Van Morrison while he was still in high school. And then he played with Kate and James Taylor. And he's got a list of people that he's connected with. And he's been in many bands that have worked a lot. I was never in music. But when we got together, I actually wrote a couple of songs, and I don't know how to write songs, but I wrote a couple of songs for a play that I wrote. I was a playwright for a little while. He heard these songs. This was about 15 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, we have to do them. And I'm saying, what do you mean we have to do them? And he said, yeah, come on, we're going to do them. And he figured out the music to it, because I just wrote songs singing a cappella, and I handed them over to the actors of this play. And so we started doing these songs. And then we did other songs that Duane had written. And then we started writing songs. And then we started doing covers from the 50s and 60s, because those are the music that we love. And then we really became a band. And we were in Nashville. I moved down here because of family from New York. And Duane had moved up to New England. And so then he came down to be with me and start another life here. And we became Duette, Duane Paulette, and we put those two names together. And now we play out all the time, and we have a very large repertoire of songs, a lot of stuff from the 60s, and a lot of our own stuff that we wrote together, and stuff that Duane had written too.
And we very often tell some of these stories while we're on stage too,
Yes.
because they come up if we're going to do that song in particular.
Yeah, we were just kids.
People are so interested in knowing what it was like to actually be there, And amazing how many people were like not even born yet that are just curious about it. And then people that are our age that are saying, well, I almost went, but I didn't get a chance to, or, rarely do we meet people that have been there, which is really interesting.
We have, being down here, I don't think we've met anybody except for Henry Gross.
That's right.
Really. But that song, We Were Just Kids, we really wanted to capture, we're saying we were just kids and what happened and what it means to us. And it's not just the music and it's not just the memory, it's wisdom our whole lives. And that is so true.
It was a state of mind,
State of mind that we have kept. And, you look around and you look at the world and you're like, what happened? But we still have that so much in our heart. And what we felt when we went to Woodstock and being surrounded by so many people who have the same consciousness, we really felt like, okay, the world's going to turn the corner now. It's going to be something of, peace and love. It's really going to happen, because look at all of us. There's all of us that feel this. Now, of course, that really didn't happen. That was like, in our minds, that was the high point. That was when we reached the high point of that sentiment and that feeling and that really heartfelt desire for the world. So when we wrote this song, we tried to really capture that feeling and still bring it forward and make it, because we still feel the same way and we still want that.
And speaking of the group of people that had all that same, feeling, after the concert was over or was ending, we left it and finally got out of the traffic to head back, and all these people, these hippies and wonderful people, were all leaving at the same time. We're all, throwing kisses and peace signs and love and everything else. And then we get on and, we get onto the turnpike coming back, and there's a couple of cars going by that were there, and they wave and the peace
We're
sign.
all doing the
And the closer we got to home, the fewer of them there were. And we started realizing that that group diffused out into the country, and we weren't together anymore.
Yeah.
It was like suddenly you didn't look out the window and see another peace sign. You just saw some grouchy old car, So that was notable when it happened,
Yeah, because we were so much a part of that group, and then you felt like, oh, we're still together, and we're going out onto the thruway, and we're going home, and then suddenly, no, they're not there anymore.
Our teenage nation.
Our teenage nation, yeah. Yeah.
And while we were speaking here, we found this envelope. I have no idea what it means, but it's got a 4-leaf clover. I promise you, book. It was in the book.
Yeah.
We just opened that book and this came out of it. So
maybe
I suppose that means something. Maybe things are going to be
Good
okay.
luck, if nothing else.
Look at that. Isn't that crazy?
Yeah,
Wow.
That's crazy.
Very cool.
Well, good luck.
Yeah, good luck.
Because this is the Village Voice from the city. That was all about. You can see the concert, what else they got? Oh, 10th largest city, blah, blah, blah. And then here's The Rat, which I think came out of Boston. And that was another Woodstock special. So this whole thing is all about Woodstock. But this one, I love this one. This is, oh no, wait.
Over there.
Oh yeah. This was a local paper from up there. I don't know if it was from Middletown or Port Jervis or even maybe local. I can't. The name of it is the Times Herald, but it's also 50 years ago, so maybe they don't make them anymore.
Yeah,
But anyway, this
the Times Herald Record is a local paper published in Middletown, which is about
okay. So
5 minutes away.
Okay. So this is that paper from August 16th. So this was the first day.
Mm-hmm.
And just interesting little piece of trivia. Let's see. Festival supply, medical problems. One slept, one died, one climbed up and fell. Police, the crowd at 400,000.
Traffic jam.
Drug arrest, traffic jam. Warnings are still out. But then you take the same paper and flip it over, and it's the sports page. And there's an article about this new rookie playing for the Buffalo Bills named O.J. Simpson. Is that crazy or what? So there's something right there. And then one more I got for you is this. This is from 1994, which was the 25th anniversary, I think. And I was living up in New Hampshire, and the local paper they heard that I had been there, so they wanted to do an article, so they did this. By the time he got to Woodstock. So it's a whole article about my experience there. That's my daughter with me. She was 3 years old. She's not 3 anymore. And so that was fun. They were so fascinated by, you were really there, So that's kind of been the theme over the years.
I think we covered a lot of ground, actually.
Oh, okay.
What I anticipated might happen pretty much did, which is that you answered pretty much all my questions before I needed to ask them, which is wonderful. But I do have one question that I always wrap up my interviews with, and it's kind of a forward-looking question rather than a reminiscing question.
Mm-hmm.
So I always like to ask this because we have this unique opportunity of speaking to folks from the Woodstock generation, and we're preserving these stories for future generations. So with that in mind, based on your life experiences, including your time at Woodstock, but also just anything else you feel is relevant, is there any sort of advice or wisdom or message that you'd like to pass on to future generations?
Mm.
Wow. Well, something comes to mind.
Go ahead, yeah.
That the feelings that you have as a young person And especially what idealistic feelings that you think, wow, the world should be a place like this, or and in our heads it should be a place of peace and sharing love and sharing art and sharing music. That as you get older and you start to get into the workforce and you start to have worries and things that you have to be concerned about, it's so important to try to keep those idealistic feelings as much as you can, even though things are going to kind of pull you down. But it's that feeling, and I realize it later now, being this age, that's the most important thing, and everything else is important, yeah, but having sort of a constructive and large worldview is really the best thing to maintain as much as you can.
That sounds good. I'll do it. Where do I sign?
He agrees.
Ditto.
Well, my biggest thing about the era, more than the reminiscing and the nostalgia, was as you're saying, it was the consciousness and the philosophies and the culture, and that doesn't, because it was 50 years ago, doesn't make it irrelevant or obsolete. And it's like with some of the craziness that happens nowadays, and just in every aspect of life, you almost want to say, go look at this as a model. This is how it is when everybody kind of gets along and feels good about things instead of being so negative about almost everything. Even positive experiences always end up turning negative. There's always a bad apple. It just which was such an amazing thing about Woodstock, is that none of that happened. Even following months or 2 months from that, when they did other concerts, and I think of Altamont and all these other ones, there was problems, and trouble, and it was somebody always wanted to disrupt it.
Up,
It's
yeah.
like that just didn't happen there, and it was, if only that was kind of that they should have classes about that,
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
anyway, so that's our story.
And you're sticking to it,
I
right?
was sticking to it.
That's right.
Well, thank you so much for sharing all of that with me. Before I go ahead and end the recording, was there anything else we didn't touch on that you wanted to talk about, or any parting words?
Probably. But
Yeah, probably.
we'll remember as soon as you hang up. So,
Yeah.
but one thing is, thank you for getting back to us, because we've been looking forward to somehow getting our story to you guys, and I'm so glad we were able to finally connect and be able to tell you it. So thank you.
Yeah, just really appreciate it. We love, I mean, we feel like we are a part of it, and we love that we can actually be a physical part of it, So that's great. And one of these days we're going to get up there and want to reminisce and be there.
Just to stand there.
Yeah.
Well, thank you again so much for contributing and for sharing your stories. I'm going to go ahead and end the recording now, but we can stay on the call for another few minutes.